Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So this video we're going to be doing a review of somebody else's video. So I tend to train predominantly women, not necessarily petite women, but I have come across my fair share of women who are on the shorter side, and we've successfully gotten them to lose weight. So we're going to go through this video. We're going to just generally talk about it and how you can start viewing content in terms of, is this information good? Is it relative? Will it actually work? Now, I don't know the creator. I don't have an opinion on her personally, but from my experience of working with people for the last 15 years, I just want to run you through what she's saying and then how I would normally program for a client based on the information that she's talking about. So there's some really good points in this video, and there's also some things that need to be spoken about in more depth and give you some more nuance. So without further ado, we will get started. And let's do it.
If you're 5'4" or under and trying to lose weight, you're probably struggling to see results. We're told to just be in caloric deficit, but why doesn't that work for so many petites?
Because you're not in a calorie deficit. Every time you're in a calorie deficit, you will always lose weight. 100% of the time. Even if you think you're in a calorie deficit, if you're not losing weight and or centimeters, there's a big emphasis on centimeters, it just means you're eating too much. And then we just have to fix that by either tracking accurately or giving you a potentially lower number that will actually get you to eat less.
I've narrowed it down to 5 petite-specific mistakes that are ruining your caloric deficit. If you fix these, you'll finally have a plan that is made to work for your body. The first mistake is setting your deficit wrong in the first place.
Now, this is actually very easily done, and I'm going to give you some examples in a moment, but let's see what she has to say.
Most of us just Google our BMR and decrease calories from there.
BMR is not the best way to go about it. So obviously that's your calories just to lay in bed, just stare at the ceiling, keep the lights on, so to speak. We do want to account for your activity, but again, let's listen to the rest.
Number ends up being way too low, which is why you feel so awful during your diet and can't actually stick to it long term. The thing is, your BMR or your basal metabolic rate is just the amount of calories you burn by laying in bed and
pretty much
doing nothing all day. It does not consider your activity levels and how much you burn just by digesting food.
Now, the thermic effect of food is actually very minimal, to the point where it's so negligible I wouldn't even be talking about it for the majority of people. Yes, you are going to burn a little bit more calories eating more of a whole food diet, things like fiber and protein, but it's like 5 to 10% if you average it out overall. I mean, you're not going to be on a keto diet and only eating protein. It's really nothing you need to worry about.
Backfires for us petites because our BMR is already low to begin with. For example,
now when we say that someone's BMR is low to begin with, that is an untrue statement, because your BMR is always relative to you, right? If you're comparing your BMR to your husband, for example, or someone who's just a larger person, yes, it's going to be a lower BMR compared to someone who's bigger than you. But to say that your BMR is just low is factually incorrect, right? If you have two women of the same height and same weight, you're going to pretty much have the same BMR. It's just how it works. It's just physics.
If I just lay in bed all day, I burn 1,200 calories. That's my BMR. But with lifting heavy in the gym 5 days a week and getting at least 10k steps a day, I burn around 2,300 calories a day.
Now, this is where I probably have a problem. So, I believe that these numbers are slightly inflated. Now, yes, if you are doing a long, hard training session and you're doing at least an hour in the gym, you could be pushing maybe the 300 calorie range. That's on the high side. And then steps per day, again, for most people, you're going to fall roughly in that 3, maybe 600 calorie range based on your BMR calories. So let me give you a very quick example, and we may come back to this one. All right, so here is a typical female at 152 centimeters tall, on average about 55 kilos. So they're already on the fairly smaller, leaner side. You know, they've still got a little bit of fat to lose. They're exercising on average 4 to 5 times a week. So if you're in the gym 3, maybe 4 days a week, and you're getting 10,000 steps, this would be the activity modifier I would use. Now, if we calculate this person's calories, and when we come back to this example, their maintenance calories is still only about 1,700. So where the extra 300 to 400 calories came from, I have no idea. Now, if we take myself, for example, I get 10,000 steps every day. These are my personal stats currently at the time of making this video. I'm by no means very lean at all. I'm still like 19% body fat currently right now in the fat loss phase. But I am 38 male, 180 centimeters tall, so just shy of 6 foot. Just missed out. I exercise on average 4 times a week, and I get very close to 10,000 steps a day. About 8,000 on the low side, but I really try and push for the 10,000 if I'm being a good boy that day, right? Let's calculate. I burn 2,400 calories a day. I have no idea where someone who's just close to 5 foot can be burning this amount of calories. And this is where some of the misinformation can start to come in.
That's my TD number. If I just decrease my calories to 2,000, which is still quite a bit of food, I will lose weight. That sounds way more manageable and healthy than 1,000 calories a day.
Now, partially correct. So if you have a correct maintenance, I would say this is probably arguably more correct. 1,700, and if you're looking at dropping roughly 300 to 500 calories, guess where that puts you back down to? Pretty much your BMR calories.
Since I've been lifting for years, I've built up my TD to be quite high. If you're a beginner, it's most likely going to be a bit lower than that. But if you're interested in increasing your TD as well, I've made a whole video on reverse dieting specifically for petites, and
Now, reverse dieting is also bullshit and you don't need to do it. When you finish a diet, and I do this with all of my clients, we can literally go back to maintenance calories overnight. People have different adaptable metabolisms, meaning some people just naturally do a lot more as they start to go closer back to maintenance calories. The far majority of people who I work with don't necessarily do that. The far majority of people who I work with have weight gain problems. And that is purely because you eat too many calories than you need. So, if by increasing your calories slowly, and just think about this logically with me, if you keep increasing your calories, even if it is slowly, there is only so high you can get your calories. Now, some people will start to move a bit more subconsciously without even knowing about it. I would say that's probably less than the majority of the population. But how did you get in trouble in the first place? You ate too much. So you can't magically increase your calories drastically. The only way to keep increasing your calories is your activity has to keep going up. And the majority of people who I know and work with work a 9-to-5 job, they have family, kids, stuff they need to do, would barely be lucky to get that 10,000 steps a day. Don't work in the fitness industry like me, right? You don't have access to the gym 24/7 whenever you'd like. Most people are time poor and they want to do other things besides just trying to lose weight all the time. So, you cannot keep increasing your metabolism over time. You will eventually get fat again.
I'll link it down below. Going back to figuring out your TD, just go to a TD calculator online and input your age, height, weight, and activity level. It will calculate the number for you. Decrease that number by 10 to 15% and you've got the right amount of calories you should be eating to lose weight sustainably.
Now, before we move on, so your deficit has no bearing over your BMR calories. So whatever your BMR calories are, whatever number you should decrease, some people just give you an arbitrary number of like, just drop 500 calories, just drop 700 calories. Your calories should be decreased based on a few things. And number one is how fat you are. What is your body fat percentage, or what is your waist circumference? And then number two, just from a personal preference, how fast do you want to lose the weight? Right? Most people don't want to be dieting forever. For most people, a 10 to 15% deficit, you can wipe out in one weekend of bad eating very, very easily. So the way I like to do this with my clients, and I've spoken about this on my channel many times, is the more overweight you are, the faster you can lose weight and or go more aggressive with your deficit. So, for example, if you're obese, you can do a protein-sparing modified fast, which is essentially protein only and a few supplements. If you're overweight, your deficit's going to be in the range of about 30 to 50% based on your maintenance calories. If you're average, and most people sort of fall within these three categories, you can be anywhere from about a 20 to a 40% deficit. If you're really lean, you can still be pushing about a 25% deficit on the high side. So for most people, just baseline, you're probably going to want to start with at least, and I'm going to say a bare minimum, at 20%. 10 to 15% is just way too slow, all right? Unless you're already in the very athletic category, right? If you can probably see a bit of ab definition, then you're probably in between these two ranges.
In the first place. Most people stick to their deficit perfectly for the first week, but once they step on scale and see that not even a pound was lost, they feel discouraged and they feel like it's not working. The problem here is, as short girls, weight loss is just slower for us. We need to adjust our expectations based on our bodies, not the generic weight loss advice. For example, a 5'1" petite will maintain her body weight at around 1800 calories, while her taller friend with around the same amount of body fat will maintain at 2400 calories, just because of the height. If they both go at a 15% deficit, petites will be around 270 a day, while her taller friends will be 360. It's only 100 calories, but because her taller friend's gap is bigger, she will lose weight faster. So while for her it can take 6 weeks, for petite it will take...
Not necessarily, because you're always working, relatively speaking, from the deficit. So if I'm trying to get a 15% deficit, I will be losing at that rate. So a 15% deficit. So the 15% is still the same for both people. The problem comes into when you're a much bigger, larger person. Yes, technically you can lose weight faster, but you can diet on more calories and still lose weight at a faster rate.
Around 8. But that's actually not a bad thing, because slower weight loss actually helps preserve muscle mass, and the more muscle mass you have, the more calories you burn just by existing. It also causes...
Potentially correct. So you should always look at your weight loss as a percentage of your current body weight. So, for example, someone who's 100 kilos, you can lose very comfortably 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week, which usually equates to about 500 grams to a kilo per week. Very easily, right? I would even argue you could probably even lose a bit faster than that. Now, for someone who's 50 kilos, you still want to aim for the rate of weight loss of between 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week. But that's going to be relatively lower. So it's going to be closer to like 250 grams to a maximum of 500 grams per week, because it's relative to your current weight. So just because your friend who's bigger and larger can lose a kilo per week, you have to always look back to what is my weight and what is my safe weight loss range. And if you're losing between that number, that 0.5 to 1% per week, and your weight training, and you're getting enough protein, and your strength is increasing over time, you are maintaining your muscle mass.
Less stress on your body and keeps your hormones nice and healthy. So you can keep your health in check and easily maintain your results long term. So before you decide your deficit doesn't work, be patient and give it at least 2 weeks before making any adjustments. If after 2 weeks the scale still does not move, you can increase your deficit and wait at least 2 more weeks to make any more adjustments. But the next mistake is...
Yes, I do agree with this. I would actually extend this out specifically for women up to 3 weeks, and this just depends on when you get your period. So don't take this the wrong way. I'm not trying to mansplain this to you, but 90% of my clients are female. I usually see a big fluctuation pre-menstrual, so just before you get your period, the first few days of, and then any water retention bloating that you get during that initial phase usually tapers off as you are starting to finish your period. So sometimes the first 2 weeks, or let's say you go 2 weeks without any progress, and then you also are just about to get your period and you blow out in terms of water retention, premenstrual cramping, etc. You may have to just push it out just a little bit further to see if you get the drop. More often than not, when I train clients, and if they're sticking to the calories meticulously, and then they do just start their period and then they finish it, any progress that they should have seen on the scale during that time, the pre-period and post, or just as you get your period, that those results usually show up just after you finish. So for example, you might be typically losing, and I'll make up numbers, 1 kilo, you just got your period, you didn't lose anything, then the following week you dropped 2 kilos. And it's not that you dropped 2 kilos in that last week, it's just the fact that it's now showing up just a little bit later just due to your period. So that's just something that you want to take into consideration as well.
Is what actually might be messing up your adjustments in the first place. It's eating back the calories burned. People log their...
Yes, massive mistake. Don't do this.
Food in MyFitnessPal, but then their watch says they burned 300 calories during their workout. The app actually increases their calorie intake for the day based on how many calories it shows they burned. Without even realizing it, people just erase their deficit or even go into a surplus. That's because when you calculate your TD, it already includes your activity for the day.
100% agree with this.
If I need to be eating 2000 calories to be in a deficit, but then my watch says I burned 500 calories during my workout, if I eat back those 500 calories, I will be in a 200 calorie surplus, so I'll just be gaining weight instead. For us petites, that little number of 200 makes a big difference. So make sure that you keep your calories fixed no matter your activity that day. When you're using any app, make sure that it doesn't add back the calories that you've burned during that day. Now the next mistake.
I would absolutely 100% agree with that. So the best way to adjust your progress is to have a very fixed calorie number, or a calorie ceiling, I like to call it. And then if you are not making progress and you are militant accurate with that number, it's 100% accurate. You weigh, track, measure all of your food. The only way to lose weight is to decrease that number further. So try not to overcomplicate it by adding in steps, calories burnt with steps or training sessions, or whatever else you're doing. Just have a fixed number. If it's not working, calories come down.
Mistake is super common. It's overeating on the weekends. If you're perfect Monday to Friday, but then you have an untracked meal on Saturday, you might be erasing all the hard work you've done during the week. And I know this
happens all the time, especially with my clients. One of my default recommendations for pretty much all of my clients as well is anytime that you're eating lunch out, friends or family, let's just say it's like a baguette from a coffee shop, the bare minimum calories you're going to consume, unless you're being really anal and particular with your food choices, is at least 500 calories. Now, if you're going out socially for dinner, I can guarantee at the bare minimum, you're going to be eating at least 1,000. All right. And every time you go out for lunch or dinner, sometimes depending on your lunch, you could potentially be having a higher calorie lunch as well. Even if it's things like meat and vegetables, there's still so many hidden calories that you don't realize is being added to your meal. So for example, with steak, oils and butters that's being cooked in can easily add in another 300-400 calories on top of the steak and veggies. Any dressings that you have on the vegetables or salads, etc., they literally just blow out your calories. So by default, one thing I like to recommend is if you go out for lunch, book in 500 calories for lunch. It's going to happen. If you're going out for dinner, you probably going to have to just bank in at least 1,000 calories for dinner.
Sucks to hear, but because we're short, we have a lower TD, which means we have a lower margin for error. If I'm dialed in Monday to Friday and have a 200 calorie deficit each day, that's roughly a 1,000 calorie deficit by Friday. But on Saturday, with a main, a couple of drinks, and a dessert, I'm easily over extra 1,000 calories for the night. All the work during the week erased in one night. I'm not saying to stop going out or enjoying food. Not at all. Instead of thinking of your deficit day to day, think of it like a weekly budget. If I know I'm going out on Saturday, I plan for it ahead of time. I make my weekday deficit a bit higher. Instead of a regular 200, it will be 280 a day. That's very minimal, but makes a big difference because by Friday, I've met my calorie deficit goal for the whole week.
Correct. And this is something that I do with my clients. We think of it on a weekly average as opposed to a hard number you have to hit every day. Now, the problem is if you are eating out, you're always going to be eating more than you think. So you probably want to also add on maybe an extra 15-20% to whatever meal you're tracking in terms of calories. So for example, let's say it's 1,000 calories. You probably want to add on an extra 200 calories to that 1,000 calories because of hidden extras and things like that.
Now on the weekend, I can eat freely in maintenance and still end my week in a deficit.
This is also another fantastic idea, and some of my clients work this into. And that will be that they will be in a really good deficit, meticulously tracked, weight tracked, measured everything 6 days of the week, and then they just allow themselves to have one maintenance day per week. And this is a fantastic way to diet. It will fluctuate your weight a little bit more, but again, we're just looking at the averages over the course of the week and the month. That's how you want to look at things. And if you find that you're not making progress, I would definitely look at that social meal being the first thing that you want to pull back on.
Way I can enjoy my weekends, go out, and still be on plan. If you don't feel like banking more on the weekdays, you can also just keep your meals out simple. Have a protein-based meal like steak or sushi, and just limit yourself to one drink or dessert. It's all about creating balance and being able to still enjoy going out and eating out while not being too strict or giving yourself too much grace. Now, the mistake that quietly stalls progress is having a low need. Most of us dial in food and crash our workout.
Yes, you need to get your steps up. I don't care who you are, small person, large person, you want to be aiming for at least 8,000 steps a day purely for health purposes. I like to give the range of roughly 8 to 12,000 steps a day, but especially if you're a small female, you just go to your desk job, you work your 9 to 5 job, you don't lift any weights, and you don't get your steps up, the amount of calories that you burn above your BMR is literally next to nothing. You'd be lucky to burn a couple of 100 calories on top of that. So, to make your life easier, and you should be a healthy, fit, active person, you should be moving your body almost every day.
Then sit at a desk all day. That backfires because NEAT, all the movement you do outside of the gym, walking, doing chores, fidgeting, makes up a huge chunk of your daily calorie burn. Most of the time, even higher than your workout. If your whole calorie deficit comes only from eating less, your calories will get very low fast, especially for petites, making it very hard to stick to. You have to have the tiniest meals possible, which leads to low energy and most of the time overeating later on. It's also unnecessary because there's a better way to do it. Instead of taking your whole deficit from food, divide it by 2. If you need to be at a 500 calorie deficit, substitute 250 from food and create the other 250 with NEAT. For example, like walking 5,000 extra steps a day. It's the same deficit, but a lot more manageable. The issue is, most of us know this, but with a busy lifestyle and a desktop job, it's very hard to get your steps in. An easy fix that personally helped me is having a step floor. A realistic number that I know I can actually stick to every day, no matter what.
8,000 a day should be the bare minimum.
I can always go over that, but I will never go below my step floor. And if you're just starting having step goals, don't go crazy and have a step floor of 10,000. Even starting with 5,000 is a good number. Now, to actually meet your goal, you can add in micro walks during the day instead of trying to meet your step goal all in one walk.
Absolutely agree with this as well. So steps is a good way to increase your overall energy expenditure, but it doesn't have to be done in one big chunk. So you can do 10-minute walks in the morning, 10-minute walks at lunch, 10-minute walks in the afternoon. On average, most people generally get about 1,000 steps for every 10 minutes of walking. One of the best investments you can make is buying an at-home under-desk walking pad and or home treadmill. You can go onto Facebook Marketplace. People give up on their fitness journeys all the time. You can pick them up pretty cheap, maybe even a brand new one, a walking pad close to $200. And you can just get home, jump on the pad, get your steps up, watch your favorite TV show. For example, if you're watching this right now and you're getting your steps in, this is going to be close to like a 20-30 minute video. You could have done a 30-minute walk literally just by listening to this video. So you get to kill 2 birds with one stone.
Whatever your step goal is, you can just look up online what is the average minutes that it takes to get there and then divide it by how many little walks you can take. So for example, 5,000 steps will take anywhere from 30 to 50 minutes. So you can just have 5 micro walks a day. And that sounds a lot more manageable than doing it all in one go. If your deficit hasn't worked until now, I hope that fixing these 5 mistakes will finally make it work for your body. If you like more content on fitness for petites, make sure to follow me and check out my petite specific playlist. As always, I'll see you in the next one.
And that is pretty much it, guys. So if you have any questions, if you like this style of video, if you want me to do more of these, definitely let me know in the comments below. Send me some videos, tag me, and again, that's nothing to do with against the creator whatsoever. But I find I tend to talk about the same things over and over and over, so it's good to have a look at what other people are doing and then give you my opinion based on my experience of working with people for the last 15 years, specifically as a weight loss coach, more specifically training mostly women. It's not that I don't train men, it's just that my target demographic that gravitates towards my content genuinely tends to be women. So if you're a guy watching this and you're looking at this for your wife or girlfriend or whatever, just know I still train men. I am a male, I train myself. Alright guys, hope you found this helpful. See you in the next video.